All right. Hey guys. So this is actually my first video on YouTube. Um, at least me talking. In the other videos, I just have like my UFO stuff and just you know just uploaded. But I'm doing this one to kind of share my point of view, where I come from, and such, and um, who I am. So my name is Robert. I started this whole UFO thing back in 2012. Yeah, it all started with some random videos on YouTube. Actually, I looked up the Mayan calendar at the time, and after watching a video about how, like, I guess the world's gonna split into two, and that's basically the end of the Mayan calendar, I came across this video by the name of Bashar, something about like the Rainbow Bridge and things like that. And that's honestly like the beginning of the UFO encounters, and just being fascinated by UFOs and stuff. Um, so I started watching those videos. I'm sure people already know who Bashar is and all that stuff, and they know that he is a channeler. The person is actually Daryl Anka. He's channeling this entity, this vibration, this frequency, by the name of Bashar. And Bashar, he's like, I guess, an extraterrestrial from, I think, I'm not sure if it's a planet, but his civilization is called Essasani, I believe. And at first, when I first started hearing him, I didn't think much of the things he was saying. I just thought it was very good advice, and it seemed reasonable and easy to apply to one's life. And after hearing him for a couple months, I did more research, and I found out that he was an alien, an entity, and things like that. So, so I started off with watching those videos of Bashar. Got a lot of insight on that, and then so this is 2012. This is like November-ish of 2012. Um, so around December, at the end of the year, I went over to a New Year's party, and during that New Year's party, I remember I was in the backyard, and I was with like a group of people. It was like a little bonfire pit and everything, and I remember I was just hanging out, and I get this weird feeling to like look up to the sky. So I look up, and I see this orange orb, and it didn't emit any sound. It was very low to the ground. It kind of reminded me of like a Chinese lantern, like that aura look, like that like a flame, it has like the little ring around it. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So I look around me. I remember I was sitting in a bonfire pit, and I kept asking people. I was like, "Hey, look up, look up." Nobody would bother looking up. Everybody was kind of like zoned out or something, right? And fortunately, I was with one of my buddies, and I asked him to look up, and he looked up, and he saw another orb. So it was like one. It was like starting to form like a triangle. You get me? Like one, and then um, but shortly after he saw it, the orbs disappeared. So right after that, I guess everybody like snapped out of it or something, or it was just when the ball dropped, and it was literally like midnight. So everybody like did what everyone did, just took a shot and went on to their thing. So that was honestly my first UFO encounter. And now it's 2025, 2026. The new year just happened, and I've been on a journey about UFO since then. So after this whole thing in 2012, I witnessed this UFO. I started getting into philosophical work. Started doing more research on the Rainbow Bridge, these concepts of I guess parallel universes and such. And so I started researching philosophers and such, like Carl Jung. Started getting into like Tibetan monks. Started researching like the crystal body, the rainbow body, Krishna, and all that good stuff, right? And that was honestly the foundation to how I got into this realization that um, these UFOs are not these gray beings, green beings, right? There could be, I'm not saying there is or there isn't. Um, I personally had never seen any of them. I've had dreams where like certain certain dream characters looked a little different, right? But nothing in the sorts of a alien, like a typical gray alien, which is kind of interesting now I think back on it. But reverting back to the point is, so I started getting to the whole works of Krishna and the rainbow body. Um, Shortly after, I continued my journey. Maybe a couple years down the line, it's kind of hard for me to say on time frames, honestly, but I want to say at least like maybe 2018. Um, I started researching. I started researching things like psychic abilities. Like the Monroe Institute, um, chakra systems, intuition. Things like that. So um, I started getting into like palm reading and things. Try to figure out, is there like a thread in everything, right? There's like, is destiny really predetermined, or is it us? So I started doing all that stuff. The one thing that really solidified this whole thing about UFOs was once I started to get into lucid dreaming. I read a book called Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, and within reading that book for a few days, I had my first lucid dream. And so in my one of my first lucid dreams, I became lucid. And it's interesting. It's just like in the movie Inception, when you start to become lucid, like in that scene where like the whole city starts to melt. That's exactly what happened. The whole city, my whole dreamscape started melting. But I told myself to calm down, everything's alright. And I basically snapped out of it, and I continued being lucid. So what I first did was I came to the realization, and I was like, hey, you know what? I want to say hi to everybody. So I started saying hi to everyone. I just like stuck out my hand and I started fist pumping everybody. And what was quite interesting is that everybody said hi to me until I got to this one specific person. And I stuck my hand out to them, and they did not say hi back. So I look up, and I saw this tall person, blue eyes, blonde. And at that moment, I don't exactly remember if I started chasing them or they started running away. But basically, a chase occurred. And I remember I was chasing him, and I thought to myself, like, hey, like, this is my dream. I get to control all this stuff. So what I did is I lifted up this wall in front of him, and all I remember was looking at him and him looking back at me in shock, like in a sense of, how did you do that? How did you control that? So right after I did that, I was like, hey, you know what? If you don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to you. So I commenced on to my lucid dream and such. And what was interesting is that, so when this individual that ran away was at least like 60 years old. He was an older gentleman, older man, you know, looked like a man, right? But so I started walking around in this area, and it reminded me of a supermarket because there was like aisles. So I was walking down, one of the aisles. I looked down one of the aisles, and I remember seeing the same old man. This time he was like 40 years old, but I could see it. Blonde hair, blue eyes, same thing. And this time, this individual did say hi to me. So I just kept going. I was like, okay, that's what's up. Kept going. And I also thought it was a supermarket because I was heading over to like the cash register. And as I was walking over to the cash register, a crystal clear voice in my head came to me and it said, um, they will try to wake you up. Do not fall for it. So I got to the register, and it was the same old man, this time only 20 years younger. He was at least 20 this time. He went from like 60 to 40 to 20. And now this individual at the register, um, I confront him. I was like, hey, what's the problem? What are you doing? Like, who are you guys? What's going on here? So I remember there was this aquarium, a large aquarium with no top on it. So there was fishes swimming around. There was fish swimming around. So he ends up grabbing a fish, and I started getting impatient. I was like, hey, you need to start telling me what's happening. He grabs a fish, he tosses it to me. I grab it, And it's interesting because I felt it very slimy, wet, whatever, right? And he grabs a fish, and this time he grabs his fish and he tosses up in the sky, and he just swallows the whole thing straight, no chewing, nothing, just straight swallow the whole thing. And he did like a weird pose like that, like like um like a walking man type of thing. And as soon as I saw that, I started cracking up. I woke up, I was laughing in my dream, and I'm just like, wow, that's what's so interesting. So that was my first this experience with a you know it's not a traditional alien, right? It's not a small gray, not a green person, but it's just this is something with the foreign intelligence, something that has its own intelligence, something that knows what's happening, was able to respond to me, maybe has its own feelings, who knows, right? But that was my first encounter with something that was smart in my dream. Crazy, right? It could be my own subconscious, it could be whatever. I'm not a scientist, not a doctor, none of that stuff. I just thought it was fascinating. Until this day, I still remember it in crystal clear form. So shortly after this whole lucid dream stuff, I started recalling, my youth and such. And I remember this one experience when I was maybe 16, 17. I remember one time I walked into my apartment. Everybody was there, my brother, my sister, mom. And it was like a day in winter because I remember coming home and it wasn't so late. It was maybe like 5 p.m. and it was really dark. And I remember walking to the apartment and I was like, hey, it's kind of odd today. It's like, it's oddly dark. It's darker than usual. But at the time, I didn't think much of it. I was like, whatever. I fell asleep. And it felt like just within minutes of falling asleep, I was laying there. I could feel my eyelids closed, but I could see everything around me. Um, and at that moment, I was like, wait, I can't talk, I can't move, what's going on? And right after that, like typical sleep paralysis, I had my sleep paralysis episode. Right after I started coming to the recognition, that's when this thing appeared, and I didn't really see its body. I just saw like a giant hand, and it was like I don't know if you guys ever seen the Dementors or from the Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure what they're called, but those like ghost knights. They're like they're just like cloth, and it reminded me of static electricity. It was like just like a claw made of static electricity, just going back and forth, and it was clawing at my heart, just boom, boom, yanking it. And the thought occurred in my head that I'm gonna die, and I basically told myself that I had way more to live for, and then I called down the name of God, and God appeared, but not like a ball of light, not like the traditional sense where it was like a man with long hair in a robe. It was literally just it was just a human hand in just a golden light started pulling this static electricity hand off of my heart, and I saw it vividly. And right after that occurred, I woke up, heart rate accelerated, sweating, nervous, and I went over to my mom's room, and everybody was sleeping fine, nothing was wrong. And that's kind of like where, in hindsight, that was probably my first quote unquote UFO encounter, way before 2012. So what I'm trying to say is that this whole thing about these UFOs, right? People always think they're literal beings in these flying crafts doing things, but it's not necessarily that. Now we see in modern times that people are calling them NHIs, I believe, non-human intelligence. They're calling them UAPs, unknown aerial phenomenon. And the whole point for this video is just to share my experiences, my UFO videos. I don't know if you guys seen some on my channel, but I have a couple and I have more on my phone. I just haven't uploaded them, but this is the plan. I'm going to start uploading them and kind of go through it. I'm going to do some reaction videos to videos I see online, like News Network, just like whatever things I find interesting. A lot of this like occult history, like things with World War II, how certain groups were looking for certain artifacts. They're looking for like Atlantis. They're looking for like ancient mystery schools and such things as that. Even with certain things going on the news right now regarding certain files, um, this whole idea of ritual magic has never gone away. Um, this whole idea of sacrificing and worshiping gods and entities have never gone away. It's only just been revamped, I guess. Um, but I think that is the reason why this is very important, because we're we think aliens are little green people, but I think it's more of a consciousness type thing. And without going too far into details, that's basically going to be the whole purpose of my YouTube channel. Just going to show some videos of these UFOs. Um, I've been researching this for a long time already, so I have some insight on this stuff. I've go out all the time looking for these things. Um, so I just want to share my point of view. It may not be any better than nobody else's, but you know what? I got a lot of time on my hands, and I think it's fun. And also, a lot of these UFO things, right? Like, this will be for another episode, right? But it'll be like Aleister Crowley, who did like ritual magic to summon this thing called Ram, which basically help them find help gave them knowledge. And like, let's say like JPL laboratories, uh, they were doing seances and such to receive technology, I guess, from these NHIs, non-human intelligences, to produce technology. So who's to say it's not going on now? You know what I mean? And if there is a form to contact these things and receive technology and wisdom, then it's kind of unfair that certain people know about it and certain people do not. So that's the whole purpose of this. It is mostly to educate, at least not educate, because I don't even know if this is a real topic, right? But at least share a point of view and allow the viewer to decide what they want to do. So that's basically what's going to be. It's just going to be sharing a lot of history stuff, my own personal videos, um, give more information on how I got to where I'm at. Like, yeah, I gave a brief interview of lucid dreaming and such, but there's practices and stuff. Like, there's active meditations, it's like qigong. There's a lot of things that could really help benefit an individual to find out what's going on. And at the end of the day, it's not really all just about UFOs. I believe that meditation and such helps the individual's mental health and pattern recognition. And life is all about pattern recognition. I think that if we're better able to understand the things that trigger us, the things that we respond well to, and just, like how people always say that 222, 1111. If we're able to recognize those little snippets a little better, then maybe we could change our lives for a greater good. And that's basically the whole lowdown of the videos I'm going to be posting. I'll be uploading more into my computer and just start doing this on a regular basis. But yeah, this is the intro. Hope you guys like it. You guys have any questions, just DM me, leave a comment. I don't know, do whatever you want. This is just going to be on the internet for anybody to see. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you guys.